Hello and welcome to Rotors. This time I'm going to talk to you about living with the Trex 500. This is obviously a continuation of the build review and the fly review that we did a couple of months back. Obviously had a fair bit of flying on it and brought up a little thing about the tail servo, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today, and also battery recommendations and a little issue I had with the tail gearbox. But first of all, let's have a look at the tail servo. The standard tail servo does work, as we said in the build review and the fly review, but when you start pushing it hard, as in using lots of collective and reversing the collective from one end to the other, so for tick-tocks and that sort of thing, it does tend to kick the tail out a little bit. It is a little bit low on torque and speed. So you can get things like the Taba 9257 and other sort of mini tail servos that will fit in the stock frames, but you're paying a fair bit of money for them. So I personally recommend to go with a full-size tail servo. You get more power, and also you're more likely to be able to use it in the next model. I mean, tail servos and servos in general, they do tend to last pretty well. So when you're laying out this amount of cash for a servo, it's nice to be able to use it in other models later on down the line. So buy a full-size tail servo. There's loads out there. They're all pretty good. So that's what I recommend you do. But obviously that means you need to modify the frames. So it's not that hard to do. You don't need that many tools. You don't even need a Dremel. You can do it with a Stanley knife. The frames aren't particularly hard to chisel away. So first of all, let's have a look at the frame itself. So the frame's got this plastic insert in it, which has got pins that go through the frame, through several holes in the frame. So what you need to do, you need to get a Stanley knife down the side of them, between the frame and the bit of plastic, and just cut the lugs. Once you've cut the lugs all the way round, you'll have a nice bare frame there. That's pretty easy to do. By the way, I recommend when you're doing this, take the frame off the model. It's only 10 bolts or so. It's not hard to do, and it makes it a lot easier and less likely to damage stuff when you're chiseling out the frame later on. So once you've got that out, you're left with a bare frame. Now, because of the proximity to the tail boom mount, you want to make sure that when you enlarge the hole in the frames, you want to drop the servo down a little bit. So you don't want to be touching the top edge of the hole at all, and also you don't want to be touching the rear edge of the hole either. So because there isn't a lot of frame down to the bottom corner of the servo, so you want to be moving the hole forwards and downwards to give you clearance for the tail gearbox, and to make sure you don't end up with not very much frame to mount the thing to. So the red area I've blocked out here is the bits of the frame that you want to be removing. Obviously it's only a general guide. What I did was offer up the tail servo, trim a little bit out, and then keep offering up the servo until I had the hole just big enough that the servo would go in. The other nice thing about the bit of plastic is that you can trim the lugs off, trim the holes out of the plastic, and then use the existing screws and washers and everything to then use the bits of plastic as the captive nut, effectively, or as a nut. And here you can see a couple of the holes that are in the frames that originally mounted or originally held the bit of plastic into the frames. As you can see, nice and easy to do, nothing too major. And that is pretty much how it looks. Now, and it went in really easily. It doesn't take long. You're looking at an hour maximum, really, but it's quite an easy job, even with a Stanley knife. And having to take the side frame off, it doesn't take long. You don't have to dismantle very much either. It's quite pleasant, relatively speaking. Right, So moving on. Now, I obviously told you about a little problem I had with the tail gearbox. Now, with it assembled into one piece, like you see here, it doesn't. It's not really that obvious. If you really sort of yank on the tail gearbox, you can feel a little bit of play, little tiny bit of movement between the side plates that hold the bearings for the shaft and the main tail gearbox body where it mounts onto the boom. So between the bolts and in this area here where you can see the arrows, between those bolts and the main gearbox, the plates move slightly. But as I say, because it's sort of, when it's in one piece, it's not really that noticeable, but there is definitely movement there. Now, if you see, when the model comes, when you build it, the tail gearbox assembly comes built. So when I built it, because nothing was Loctited, all I did was take one bolt out at a time, put some Loctite on it, and put it back in again. So consequently, I didn't notice that this problem. But if you take one of the side plates off, as you can see in this video here, if you take one of the side plates off, you can see that there's actually, with the bolts tight, there's actually a fair bit of play there. Now, as it turns out, these two bolts that are again marked for the arrows, you can see they're actually too long, just a fraction too long. It's only about 1 mil. So, and that's what the problem was. After all that, it was just a matter of trimming the bolts down. So, a bit of sandpaper or a Dremel or whatever, carefully, just take a mil off the end of the bolt. So, I don't know if this is a problem with the manufacturing or these bolts are the standard bolts that are used in the frames all over the model. So I can't see it being that they put the wrong bolts in. I think it must be a manufacturing error with the gearbox itself. If you've got a Trex 500L Dominator or a 500 with this gearbox on it, I'd be interested to know what your situation is, because you wind the bolts in until they go tight. But it's not until you actually take the thing half apart, as you saw in a little video segment a minute ago, that you realise that actually they're not actually tightening down on the side plates. So that's a fairly little simple fix, but there was a bit of a head scratcher for a couple of minutes of where's this play coming from. And it's not until I took it apart that I realised what was going on. Anyway, right, batteries. Now, common question this. Now, Align recommend between 2,800 and 3,300 milliamp hour 6S. Personally, I wouldn't want to go below about 3,300, because if you're running at high speed and pushing the model hard, using lots of collectives, so drawing lots of amps, most, sort of 3,300s are going to be on the limit with this model. In terms of current draw, they're going to start complaining and getting quite warm. The Align 3300 pack that I've got, which I've been playing with, is pretty unhappy by the end of the flight, and that's only a 4-minute flight as well. So at lower head speeds, treating it more gentle, then yeah, I mean you'll get 4.5 minutes out of it, but I wouldn't want to kind of go below. I wouldn't want to go below 3,300 myself personally. I've been using the OptiPower 4,300 30Cs that I've had in the Gary X5. They're a bit on the heavy side, and they're too big to use with the slide-in battery tray, but they do fit in the frames just. And I'm getting sort of 5 minutes of hard, abusive collective management or lack thereof, and the batteries are coming off cold. So, but obviously you do pay a little bit with the extra weight, and obviously not being able to use the battery tray. So, if you want to use the battery tray, the important thing is the width of the frames, which is 43 millimeters. Anything more than that will be pretty snug, and also the height between the battery tray and the skid mount tray, or the or the aluminium frame braces that mount the whole lot together underneath the battery. And that height is 45 millimeters. So anything more than that, you're going to struggle to get in. But with the, as I say, without the tray, you can get quite a bit taller battery in there, like the Optis that I've got. But yeah, so other than that, the model's been performing very well. It works nicely. It seems pretty reliable. Haven't had any major issues. Nothing's fallen off yet. Haven't crashed it yet. But yeah, no, it's a good little model. I'm enjoying flying it when I manage to get out. Obviously, weather's been a bit of an issue recently. But yeah, any problems, any questions, give us a shout. We're interested to have your feedback on these sort of videos, and be looking forward to talking to you. There'll be some more flight guide videos, accuracy videos coming out in the next sort of few days. I've got a few days off, so off work, so I'm sort of trying to get ahead of some of those. There was a TikTok one out yesterday, and I'm going to be working on a Piro's one this afternoon, hopefully, or tomorrow. And yeah, thank you very much for listening and watching, and have fun. Goodbye.